Hello and welcome to another Deck Tech here on Cheapest MTG. It's our first foray into Hour of Devastation, and do we have a fun one for you? So I've fondly named the deck Blue-Red Pests. It's built around my favourite cards to come out of Amonkhet, and what is, at least from the spoilers, my favourite card out of Hour of Devastation. So with no further ado, we play 4 copies of Drakehaven. Drakehaven for me is just an incredibly powerful card that came out of Amonkhet. Continuous source of tokens, that they're 2/2 flyers, so they are reasonably sized to make a dent in your opponent's life total. A 2/2 flyer for 1 mana is also a ridiculously good rate, and there's not much enchantment removal running around standard right now, so you tend to be that if you get one to stick, it stays there for the rest of the game. To add to this, we've also now got 2 copies of the Locust God. The Locust God is a 4/4 for 4 generic, 1 blue and 1 red flyer. It also has the ability that whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. It then also has another ability for 2, a blue and a red, draw a card, then discard a card. So you can obviously see the synergy there with Drakehaven. And it also has pseudo indestructible, that when the Locust God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So as you can tell, this deck is going to be built around generating a bunch of flying tokens, hence the name Pests. It just so happens that a lot of the discard outlets in Standard right now also have draw cards attached to them, so these cards work very nicely together. You know, Locust God triggers Drakehaven as well. It's a good synergy-based deck in 2 pretty strong colours, so let's see what else makes the deck. So in order to trigger our draw and discard effects, we're going to play 4 copies of Cathartic Reunion as a very powerful rummager. Drawing 3 cards would net us 3 Locusts, and discarding 2 for the additional 2 mana would net us 2 Drakes, as well as getting rid of what are presumably some of the worst cards in our hand and hopefully drawing some better ones. We're also going to play 3 copies of the new card Tragic Lesson. Tragic Lesson is a more expensive but instant speed tormenting voice that you don't always have to discard. You can return a land to your hand. This can be beneficial if you need to discard the land, say, to another Cathartic Reunion. I think I'm willing to pay the extra mana for Tragic Lesson over Tormenting Voice, just because it is instant speed as well, and obviously in a blue-red deck, you do have access to other instant speed effects. As another way to loot, we're going to play 4 copies of Wharf Infiltrator. Wharf Infiltrator hasn't really seen standard play, apart from when it first came out. I know one of the teams at that season's Pro Tour tried to play it to very little effect. But the fact is, it's a 1/1 for 2 mana that has Skulk. Skulk is pretty much unblockable here, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you may loot. If you discard a creature card when you loot, you may play 2 and create a 3/2 Colorless Eldrazi Horror. Now, the chances of us discarding a creature are incredibly low in this deck. We don't play many actual creatures. So the Eldrazi Horror effect is going to come into play not that much of the time, but it is still relevant. The fact that this creature type is also a horror is also relevant in blue-red decks, where we're not main decking Thing in the Ice, but it's definitely a sideboard consideration. On the topic of horrors, we're also going to play 2 copies of Bedlam Reveler. Reveler is a great way to discard your hand and draw cards. Also in this deck, where we're going to be putting cards in our graveyard and casting cards like Cathartic Union and Tragic Lesson, we're going to be getting instants and sorceries in there to make the Reveler cheaper. Reveler is another win condition on top of things. I think it's a really good fit for this. And another way to draw cards, one of my favourite cards in Standard right now, we're going to play 4 copies of Fevered Visions. Guaranteeing us 2 draw steps a turn, great. Keeping up the card flow so we can discard, even better. Also, again, another win condition if you can keep doing damage to your opponent. I really have loved Fevered Visions in this format, and whilst it may be a weaker card against some of the aggressive decks, I've been really impressed with it in the blue-red zombies decks, for example. Playing blue-red, we have access to some very powerful spells, and with 2 of the blocks having a sort of semi-focus on discard, we have quite a few options here. As far as I would opt for, we need to play some removal, obviously, in this kind of a deck. We're going to play 4 copies of Lightning Axe, allowing us to discard to Drakehaven. We're going to go with the old 1-2 punch and play 4 copies of Fiery Temper, a great card to discard to Lightning Axe. It means that when we are discarding, we're not necessarily really going down a card because we're using it, and also we get to kill a creature with Lightning Axe, kill a creature or burn our opponent with Fiery Temper, and produce a Drake for 3 mana. It's an insane 2-card combo with a Drake Haven out. We're also going to play 3 copies of Censor. Force spiking your opponent on any stage of the turn is fine, and when Censor becomes irrelevant, it has cycling, which this deck is really rather fond of. It's a discard and a draw for Drake Haven and the Locust God. We're also going to play 2 copies of Anticipate. Note, with Anticipate, you don't actually draw a card, so this won't trigger the Locust God, but as we're in some ways, we kind of a combo deck. We rely on having a few pieces out. Anticipate will help set that up. I find it to be very valuable in pretty much any blue deck while it's been in standard, and I definitely think it's right to play at least a couple of copies. On to the mana base. We're a 2-colour deck. Our mana requirements aren't too stringent. We have some double red and a blue-red card, but that's about it. We're going to play 4 copies of Wandering Fumarole and 4 copies of Spirebluff Canal. Just pretty useful dual lands. We also get to make use of the new deserts. We're going to play 2 copies of Desert of the Mindful and 2 copies of Desert of the Fervent. Now, the concern here is this will take us up to 8 tap lands. It's quite a lot. However, the deserts do cycle later on in the game, so they're not irrelevant. Also, the deck can function on 3 lands, so we can definitely afford at least 1 tap land there. And as I said, the desert cycling is really big for this deck. It means that when we top deck a land later on in the game, it's not necessarily a dead draw. We can turn it into a Drake or a Locust. It's quite useful. And then to round off the mana base, we're going to play 6 islands and 6 mountains. The mana for this deck's nearly 50-50, so that gives us an even split on colours, which I think is fine. So that's the deck take for Blue-Red Pests. We haven't done a sideboard guide, purely because in a new standard meta with the post-Marvel ban, we don't really know what the best decks are going to be, and obviously for sideboarding, you need to know what you're sideboarding against. As I recommended, though, some cards like Thing in the Ice are pretty much near automatic inclusions in the blue-red sideboard these days. If you did like the deck, then there's a deck list in the description. Also, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot. We will be producing more standard deck techs after this video. So if you are interested, then by subscribing, you will see those on your homepage and hopefully view them. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. They're both at CheapusMTG. And I hope you'll join us for future videos.